Hello, I'm Megan.
I'm
And
Amber.
there's Amber in the wonderful hat. And we are both interns for the Alaska Farmers Market Association. So since this has expanded, Amber, why don't you tell everyone who we are and what we do?
Sounds good. We are both recent graduates, or she's a recent graduate. I'm still a student. And for the UA system up here, I'm a psych major. She was an English major. We're both really passionate about our state. We were born and raised here, and we really take great pride in getting to do just this small part in increasing food security here in the state of Alaska. What we do, we get to travel all around the state, super awesome job, and collect data, sales data, and then surveys from customers to engage with them and kind of see what they have to say about the markets, ways we can make it better, and just get a good idea of what the customer has to say about each market.
Yeah. So between 2018 and 2019, we did 25 visits. One number is a little bit lower. So 2018, 11 unique market visits, and then really 13 visits because we doubled up on the Homer and Tanana Valley farmers markets just because they're so large. And so we tried to get kind of peak season and then one in the fall to get an average and try to get kind of a full picture of that market. So the markets that did overlap between 2018 and 2019 were Friday Fling, which is in Palmer, the South Anchorage Farmers Market, Farmers Fresh down in Kenai, the Ninilchik Farmers Market, which was brand new in 2018. So that on a Saturday, the Homer Farmers Market and Tanana Valley Farmers Market. So there were a few others that we went to in 2018, decided that they weren't really giving us exactly what we needed. They had lots of craft vendors versus just, agricultural producers, or like this last year, 2019, we did not go to the Mountain View Farmers Market because they shifted to that really awesome format that we heard about today where they're Grow North Farm and now a farm stand. So just as things have shifted a little bit, we have shifted which markets we went to. Oh, something just came up on my screen. Anywho, sorry. In 2019, our average customer count, so the way we did customer counts was on the hour, every hour for 10 minutes. We would count everybody coming into a market, and we averaged those numbers out and got 210 customers per hour across all markets that we visited. And the average, but then we would use those customer per hour counts to find the average dollar amount that people spent, and we'll get to that too, how we collect that, and found that it was $37.60 per person, which is really good. If every person is going and spending $40, and you're getting 1,500 people going through a market, that's a pretty solid Saturday. So oh, and real quick too, the map on the bottom are all the markets that we did travel to last year, little red dots. You want to take this one, Amber?
Sure. I mean, most of it's right here on the screen where we saw growth. An increase in spending. The number of customers spending average increased at Friday Fling, South Anchorage, and Tanana Valley. Increased foot traffic. We saw more customers. Our customer counts between 2018 and 2019 increased at the Sold Out on a Saturday Farmers Market and the Ninilchik Farmers Market, 268%. Homer and Tanana Valley remain consistent between the years, which makes a lot of sense.
I do want to interject on Ninilchik real quick. When I mentioned Ninilchik was brand new in 2018, once the word got out, that's why we saw that 268% increase in those customer counts. It really just took off once people had heard about it. So continue, sorry.
And then the survey, our questions, we did change wording a little bit, but local versus visitors attendance went up in the second year. Increase in answers for what people purchased that day. Produce went up, local food went up, baked goods went up, and honey went up. And how people learned about the markets, social media went up, which is good, and drove and walked by went up as well.
Yeah, and those, I know those percentages look crazy too, but those were kind of multiple answer ones. So check off kind of all that apply. So
Yeah.
lots of people were were going for those baked goods and honey, which is really awesome. And social media, we did see a big spike in that, and we added this question in 2019 because we had asked in 2018 how people heard about the market, and overwhelmingly it was word of mouth, that people just heard from somebody, they lived in the area for a long time, they just knew about it. So we added a question: how would you prefer to receive information about the market? And almost half of market goers said Facebook would be the best way. Email is still a great way to contact people, and a website, and radio and newspaper we're holding out too. But Facebook and social media are really gaining ground in getting that information out to people. So I'm just now realizing that these are the the surveys from the beginning of last summer with the Alaska Grown logo. But this is an example of what our survey looks like. It's just a little half sheet, front and back, that people would come up to the booth and take. We would gather the dollar amount on a survey board, so they would put a check mark, and that is changing this year, so we'll talk about that too. We also added demographics this last year, so just to get kind of a better picture of who our audience is at the farmers market. And each market was a little bit different, but this is an average of all the markets we visited. 80% female, so we have the highest number of female farmers in the country. We also have a high number of female farmers market attendees. So females really dominate that environment, which is awesome. And then we also we asked people, in age range. And so there is that as well. I can take this one too. Where we didn't see growth, we're trying to keep really positive, especially with everything that's going on right now and uncertainty in how this summer, this season will look. So while the total customer counts, the dollar per person spent, and our projected total sales all decreased slightly, last year, like mentioned with the budget, we were laid off in the middle of the summer due to the Division of Agriculture being on the chopping block in the budget last year. So we had to shift really quickly from our positions being housed at the Division of Ag to being full-time AFMA employees. And so that really pushed all of our market visits toward the end of the season, which I think really affected our numbers. We missed out on the peak almost entirely. So that being said, there were 3 markets where we had really consistent customer counts. They didn't dip because they were around the same time as the 2018 visits, where we had high engagement on our survey board, and people, put check marks to let us know how much they were spending so we could get a really good average. And for those markets, we did see a 5% increase in total sales between 2018 and 2019. That was at the South Anchorage Farmers Market, Tanana Valley Farmers Market, and the Homer Farmers Market. So there's still growth, and I think some of the data where it did decrease slightly was just due to the circumstances that we were in last summer and having to shift things. Word of mouth also did go down. So as social media is gaining ground and people are wanting to hear about the markets that way, word of mouth is it's still prevalent, and people are still talking to each other and letting each other know, but people are learning about activities and events going on at the markets through social media, which is really cool. Amber, you want to take this one?
We are making some changes this season. Customer counts. We're gonna try to be a lot more consistent with who does them and how we do them. It was very varied this year because we actually added a 3rd intern for like 2 weeks before the whole chopping block Division of Ag stuff happened. And then she decided to not join us when we switched over to AFMA and being housed at Cook Inlet Keeper. And so that added a whole bunch of variability on who was doing customer counts and how they were counting. And so I think we're just going to really focus on trying to set some better guidelines for what we're counting, who exactly we're counting, and just trying to be way more consistent and stuff like that. The survey board, where we had the money and time spent, we think we're going to shift that onto the paper because we were having a hard time getting responses for both. We would get lots of paper responses, but nobody really wanted to like put a mark on the checkboard, or they would just look at it and walk away. So I think we would get more response if we put the time and money spent questions on the paper survey instead of having it on a separate board. Our attitude is going to change a lot this year now that we know we have job security and we're not really worried about getting cut right away. Of course, a lot of that does change a little bit with the COVID-19 situation going on, unfortunately. We're not sure how we're going to fit into that yet. We're still working on it. We're really hoping that we can still go to the markets and still do our job and collect data. There's been talk that maybe it will be postponed this summer and we will pick it up again and try for the next summer. We're kind of up in the air on where that's at though. So yeah, just trying to keep a positive attitude through all of that and looking forward to the future.
Yes. And we do have a slide in a couple slides from now on a contingency plan, what we're looking at and dealing with COVID-19. But like Amber said, we're trying to be really positive. So if everything were to work out, oops, there we go. If everything went perfectly and COVID-19 was not a thing, right around now, we would start confirming with market managers, booking flights, that sort of thing, and making travel plans. And then this would be our schedule. So we were planning on expanding our travels because in 2019, we did expand to Southeast Alaska just to try to get a more complete picture of the whole state. Like Robbie said, the state is huge. So it is difficult to find the resources and money and time to get to all of those communities off the road system. But we did expand to Petersburg and Haines. And this year we were planning on expanding further and going to Sitka and Kodiak. So this is what our map would have looked like. But things may be changing due to COVID-19. So many markets are discussing the possibility of online platforms, going through food hubs, that sort of thing, doing kind of like drive-through options, which are not really conducive to our form of data collection. I'm seeing a little bit in the chat, I have it opened, where people are saying that maybe we could do a QR code or have some other way to have people take the survey. And those are things we're definitely going to look into and see if they are viable options for us. But we are also going to speak with the USDA about an extension through the 2021 season on that grant, just so, you know, even if we can go to markets and do data collection, it's still going to be kind of skewed when you think about the fact that tourism is taking a huge hit and, you know, many visitors from out of state go to the markets. So our customer counts may be skewed that way. People might not want to come up to our booth and speak with us or take a survey or touch a pen or anything. And I'm understanding of that. So it would make more sense if we could extend to next summer. We're still hopeful for this summer, but if the USDA will work with us there and extend to next year, that is an option for us. So in that case, we would reconvene this fall to begin planning for next season. So we're, like Amber said, we're just kind of up in the air right now, waiting to hear back and see how things will go. So if anyone, we wanted to leave some time, I think we did. Yeah, about 10 minutes for questions. I know usually a lot of people have questions about how we collect data and what we do and everything. So, or if you would like to see the full statewide data reports or individual reports for your market, if you'd like those resent or anything, or if you have further questions, you can always email. I'll put my email in the chat right now as well. So
Megan and Amber are both working on some pretty awesome infographics with utilizing this data, and we're hoping to come up with some market-specific data too, because all of this data, if you can measure it, you can manage it, is the saying. So we can see where there's places to grow, to improve, and we can also use this data to write more grants to do more food systems projects. Sorry to interrupt you, Meg. I just
No, you're fine. It's
proud
given
of
me a
you,
chance.
Amber, so you guys are great.
It was good. It's given me a chance to scan the chat and see if there are questions. Let's see. The fair did this for a survey. The drawing you could mail it out. That's not a bad option. Great work. If the interns can't get to markets, maybe they can be the AFMA historians for the summer. I like that idea.
I like it.
Yeah, so does anyone have questions about the data specifically, other suggestions? I think, yeah, we are holding out hope. We'll see how everything pans out. But, and like Robbie said, those infographics, I have made a few that are kind of, they have like enter your market name here type for people to work with so that I can send those out to market managers and you can pick out the pieces of data that were the most interesting from 2018 to 2019 for your market and post those on social media since that is proving to be an excellent way to communicate with people, especially right now.
Yes.
Thank you, Kyra. Thank you, Elaine.
Ladies, this is Jody. I'm
Yeah.
just curious of the markets that you haven't been able to reach out to. Are you collecting data from people who are at those markets so that you're able to get kind of a glimpse of what's happening around the state, even at markets that are not on your radar in terms of what's going on?
Oh, Robbie is raising her hand.
I'm gonna speak to that real quick.
Okay.
So we have asked every year for a certain data set. So that includes attendance counts, it includes anonymous conglomerated sales counts, which most markets don't want to provide. But we've been collecting that type of data, also length of time that they're open, number of days. The other really cool thing that we've been collecting is the number of ag vendors and also the number of new ag vendors. So as we know, it's hard to get people to collect that data and to send it in. So we have a decent data set. It's by no means complete, but as we keep growing and becoming a stronger organization, we hope that more people will provide that. We do have some solid market collectors. So farmers, Homer and Tanana Valley, given that we're so involved in this, we've committed to that deeper data dives. But Megan, I'll let you finish answering that.
Yeah, well, as far as data from customers at those markets, because that data is on the market in general, and that captures how people are spending their money at the market in some capacity, but it doesn't capture the other questions that we asked about, like what specifically did you buy today, and those sort of things. So I had not thought about sending it out with like somebody mentioned with the food wheels or anything like that. That could be really interesting to send it out. Or we also input all of that information on Google Forms so that we have an easy way to view it and find these percentages from the survey. So that could be something we make available this summer if we cannot travel potentially. Could be a really good option. So thank you for your question, Jody.
Director Shady asked a great question. Have we collected data on why people don't go to farmers market? So we haven't, but that is possible, a great project for another project. So
we do have a question on the survey about what in 2018, I can't remember the exact wording, but it was essentially what would make your life easier coming to the market. Would it be more frequent days, different times, more access to parking, cheaper prices if people have an issue with that or think that they can't shop at the farmer's market because it's too expensive? So we have collected some data on that, but not any data from people who just don't go to the market at all. So
I think you guys, the question says, did you get any data on what they didn't buy at the market? I think is what he's
It
trying
says
to say.
why.
Like people that
Why
came to the
people.
market, but what they didn't buy.
I misread.
Oh, okay. That's
It
good.
says why, yeah.
I misread. We're good.
That's okay.
So do we have room for like one more question if anybody.
And you can always email. I threw my email in there and it's here on the screen. Take a picture of it or something. You can always shoot any question at a later time in an email to me and I'll get back to you.
Okay. Thank you, ladies. Y'all are awesome.
Thank you guys.